Hello everybody and welcome back. I'm going to go over your Unit 5 study guide with you guys really quickly. I'm going to go through it pretty fast because you should have already done your study guide and just be checking your answers before you submit it. The reason that I do make these videos is because, well, a lot of you guys don't take advantage of the optional tutoring days for review, which is totally fine. But I want to make sure that you guys have the correct answers for your study guide. So it is an extra credit assignment, but also I want you to make sure that your answers are correct so that you can study for your test, because it is important that we master this content. And so I do want to go over it with you. And, you know, the act of just watching these videos and reviewing the content with me, that is a form of studying. So I don't mind giving you this video or these videos because I do know that it is a way to review this content and you do have to watch it and listen to it to get the answers. So that's good. So we're just going to start with our lesson 1 and go all the way through. This Unit 5 was on oceans and atmosphere, so let's just go ahead and get started. So question 1 asks us, what are the two types of ocean currents? So on our very first lesson, we learned there were two types, and those are our surface currents and our deep ocean currents. So remember that our surface currents are impacted mostly by wind, and that they are the currents that are closer to the top of the ocean. And then our deep ocean currents are more so affected by density currents, so the differences in density in the ocean water. And those are really what drive that conveyor belt in our ocean. Question 2 is asking, well, 2 and 3 are asking what type of water is more dense. So these types of waters will be more dense and they will sink to the bottom when we look at those convection currents in our oceans. So cold water is more dense than warm water, and salty water is more dense than fresh water. So if we had options of choosing what would be the densest water in the ocean, it would be cold, salty water. So cold, salty water will always be the most dense, and it will always be what is sinking in those convection currents. So question 4 is asking just a review of the tides. This is a review from Unit 1 and now again Unit 5. So I'm just going to read it through with the correct answers highlighted. So spring tides occur when the sun, the moon, and the earth are in a parallel line. This leads to more extreme tides. Now remember, because the earth and the moon are in a line, their gravities are working together and therefore making more extreme tides. So in a spring tide, you would get higher high tides and lower low tides. Neap tides occur when the moon, the sun, and the earth are at right or 90-degree angles. You could see it as either or. And this results in less extreme tides. So when we say less extreme tides, it just means you don't see as much of a difference between the high and the low tide. So you would have a lower high tide and a higher low tide. You wouldn't see as much of a difference because the gravities of the sun and the moon are kind of working against each other because they're at different angles. 5 says when a wave moves through the ocean, in what direction do the water molecules move? They go up and down. Unless they are a breaker and that crest is able to outrun the trough of the wave, then it will move back and forth. But if we're talking just about a wave moving through the ocean, the movement of those water molecules will be up and down. So then lesson 2 was on differential heating and land versus sea breezes. So 6 says, which statement best explains an aspect of the differential heating of Earth's surface by the sun? And remember, differential heating just means that different substances will heat up in different ways. So we know that the land heats up faster than our ocean does. So 3 says the atmosphere over the ocean is different than the atmosphere over land. Oh, I did not highlight this one correctly. Hold on. The answer here, this is not it. The answer here is the first one. So liquids and solids absorb and store heat differently. That's going to be the differential heating on the surface of the sun, because we know that the land heats up faster than the ocean does. Sorry. There we go. So the answer here is that liquids and solids absorb and store heat differently. I need to go back and check and make sure that the answer is correct on your test as well. So 7 says the following is a diagram of what kind of breeze. So if we take a look here, here's another convection current. So we know because of this differential heating during the day, the land will heat up faster than the ocean. Okay, so that means because the land is warmer, we're going to have a warm pocket of air above the land, and then the area above the sea is going to be cooler. So the air above the sea will be cool. Now there's an area of low pressure here because this warm air is rising, and high pressure here because this cooler air is more dense and sinking to the bottom. So what happens is that this sea breeze pushes up and out, and then we get that convection current that we're familiar with. So this in particular, remember, the breezes are named from the direction in which the cold air is flowing. Okay, so during the day, the cool air is coming off of the ocean or off of the sea. So we get a sea breeze during the day. So this is a diagram of a sea breeze. It occurs during the day, and the warm air is over the land, the cool air is over the sea. Now, if you were to go to the beach on this day and face the ocean, you would feel the breeze on your face. So then on the opposite side of that, at night, the land cools faster than the ocean does. So at night, the ocean is warmer, so it reverses. So now the warm air is over the sea, and then the cool air is over the land. So now the breeze will be flowing from the land to the sea. And again, we name them after where the cold air is coming from. So that's going to be a land breeze. So land breezes occur at night when the warm air is over the sea. Lesson 3 was on the Coriolis effect. And just a reminder, the Coriolis effect is caused by the rotation of the Earth. Rotation is the spinning of Earth on its axis, and it causes the deflection of the winds and the ocean currents. Revolution is the movement of the Earth around the sun. It's what causes our years. So for the Coriolis effect, is caused by the rotation of Earth on its axis. So because of this, wind currents are deflected to the right in the northern hemisphere and the left in the southern hemisphere. Okay, so right in the north, left in the south. Hurricanes will spin counterclockwise in the northern hemisphere and clockwise in the southern hemisphere. So if you think about that Simpsons video we saw in class when Bart calls the little kid in Australia and he says that his toilets are flushing clockwise, Australia's in the southern hemisphere. So if we can remember that, we can remember the opposite for the northern hemisphere. And then 12 just asks you to describe a gyre in one full sentence. And a gyre is just a large rotating circular current caused by the deflection of ocean currents off the coast of continents. And there are 5 major ones named after which hemisphere they're in, and then of course which ocean they are in. Lesson 4 was about currents and climate. So you guys did that one on your own where you had to watch the video. But 13 says the Great Ocean Conveyor Ocean Current System, that's a little bit redundant, runs north through the Atlantic from the equatorial region. If this current got disrupted, North American and European climates would become colder. In that video you watched last Friday, you should have learned that the conveyor belt takes that warm equatorial ocean water and it pulls it up north to where the European countries are, and it brings heat to those countries. So if the conveyor belt were to stop, those countries would become colder. 14 says, what would most likely happen if a warm ocean current travels north or south from the equator? You guys answered this as a warm-up question a few days ago. So we know that if the currents are moving from the equator to the poles, it's going from where it's warmer to where it's colder. So the current itself will become colder as it loses that heat. And then we know that cold water is more dense and will sink. So it will become colder, become more dense, and sink. So the answer here is this 3 on this, but it's C. Lesson 5 was the layers of the atmosphere. And we do need to know what the most abundant gas in the atmosphere is, and that's going to be nitrogen. So nitrogen makes up about 74% of our atmosphere. And then oxygen is the second most abundant with about 21% composition of the atmosphere. So we do need to know that nitrogen is the most abundant gas. 16 wants us to put the layers of the atmosphere in order from bottom to top. So I'll start at 1. So troposphere is the first one. That's where we live, and that's where our weather happens. The stratosphere is the second one. This contains the ozone layer. Remember that ozone layer protects us from UV rays. The mesosphere is number 3. It's the middle layer. The thermosphere, so think of like having a thermos of hot coffee or like hot soup. The thermosphere is the hottest layer, and this is also where the auroras take place because it's where the ionosphere is. And then 5 is the exosphere. Exo means outer, so this is the outer thinnest layer as we are transitioning from Earth's atmosphere into outer space. And then finally, lesson 6 was the ozone layer. This was a pretty short unit. So 17 says the ozone is located in the stratosphere. So we do know that's where the ozone is. 18 says it protects us from what? It protects us from those ultraviolet or UV rays that come from the sun. And then 19 asks us to list 2 negative health effects for humans that come from UV rays, and that would be skin cancer and those cataracts that can cloud up your vision on your eye. And we learned about that when we learned that or read about that article on the EPA website on Tuesday. Okay. So those are the answers to your study guide. I hope that you were honest and answered these, or at least read through these first before checking your answers. But like I said, I don't mind giving you guys these videos because it is a way for you to review and to make sure that you have the correct answers to study for your test tomorrow. If you have any questions, let me know. And if not, I will see you in class for your access code. Bye, guys.